Southeast Asian leaders in Malaysia's capital have signed a landmark declaration. The ASEAN Community Vision 2045 sets the course of action for the next 2 decades. The immediate challenges of more than usual uncertainty in global trade, accompanied by tension in geopolitics. Malaysia's Prime Minister describing this new vision as, quote, a shared blueprint. Members restating their commitment to the bloc's charter, concerns over Washington's tariffs also looming large. Malaysia's leader saying he has written to the US president to request an ASEAN-US summit that will address the tricky issue of tariffs. On matters within the region, Anwar Ibrahim earlier hailed significant steps taken to engage warring sides in Myanmar. He adds Malaysia will continue speaking separately to the military government and armed opposition groups to try to encourage all parties to engage directly with each other. And we're joined by CNA's Melissa Goh. She's live for us in Kuala Lumpur. Melissa, the main points from that joint declaration, what's in store for ASEAN over the next 20 years?
Well, the Kuala Lumpur Declaration basically encapsulates the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, laying the foundation for the Southeast Asian grouping for the next 2 decades. It comes as the ASEAN community just marked its 10th anniversary. Now, there are 3 main pillars, namely the political security and economic community integration and social cultural pillar. Now, Prime Minister Anwar said there's now renewed optimism and confidence as ASEAN embarks on the next 20 years. ASEAN will chart its own future amid the geopolitical, geo-economic uncertainties. It's a defining chapter for ASEAN, especially with the economic fragmentation, the climate and technological disruptions is testing their resolve and their bonds. Now, ASEAN will be steadfast in embracing multilateralism, uphold free trade, capital and people. And ultimately, the people of ASEAN are at the center of this. They are the one that, let's have a listen to what Prime Minister Anwar said as ASEAN chair speaking at the signing ceremony of the KL Declaration. They are at the heart of ASEAN.
The future we seek must rest on foundations of sustainability and inclusion. ASEAN's integration must be genuinely people-centered. That means closing development gaps, raising the standards of living, and investing in the human spirit and potential of all our citizens.
In a way, this sweeping tariffs by the Trump administration has given a new impetus towards ASEAN regional economic integration. Now, ASEAN countries are gripped by some of the highest tariffs, ranging from 10 to 49%. The ASEAN Summit, as well as the ASEAN GCC Summit with the Gulf nations tomorrow, plus with China, are an important platform for ASEAN to expand inter-regional trade, while further expanding the intra-ASEAN trade that remains low at 23% after so many years. Now, above all, the KL Declaration will highlight sustainable and inclusive growth for ASEAN. Is on track to become the 4th largest economy by 2030 and to connect all the national grids to power the nation, to power ASEAN by 2045.
So, Melissa, greater integration on trade and possibly infrastructure as well. But was there any real outcome on another pressing issue, which, of course, is what's happening in Myanmar? The Prime Minister saying he was engaging both sides, but no sign yet of the both sides speaking, or many sides speaking to each other in Myanmar?
Well, that is still a work in progress, Wei Su, and it's too early to tell whether anything tangible will come out of this under Malaysia's chairmanship. But certainly, Prime Minister Anwar is trying something new here, and he remains upbeat, he said, about what's been achieved so far by the informal advisory group led by Thai former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, because for the first time, he said, a meeting was arranged with the junta leader, General Min Aung Hlaing, in Bangkok in April. And this was followed by another virtual meeting with the shadow NUG, the National Unity Government leaders. Now, both sides acknowledge that publicly, and Mr. Anwar believes that this could be the first step towards restoring peace in war-torn Myanmar. And he plans to continue with the engagement of both sides. And a fragile bridge, he said, is better than a widening gulf, adding that in a matter of peace. So he's tasked his Foreign Minister, Muhammad Hassan, who plans to head to Naypyidaw next month, to present a wish list to the military government. A statement, I understand, will be issued later today by ASEAN leaders urging the junta to halt all hostilities and extend the ceasefire to enable unimpeded access of humanitarian aid. It's going to be a long and complicated process because of the trust deficit among the various ethnic groups, Malaysia Foreign Minister said, but ASEAN remains hopeful that the 5-point consensus will be implemented meaningfully, although the timing remains elusive. Wei Su.
And thanks. CNA's Melissa Goh live for us there from Kuala Lumpur. Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong is in Kuala Lumpur for the two-day summit as well. For more details, let's cross to our reporter Rebecca Metteo, who is also there. Rebecca, we just heard from Melissa about developments on the declaration as well as progress that Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has mentioned on resolving the crisis in Myanmar. Of course, Singapore's Prime Minister is at this summit as well. Any developments on that front?
That's right, Wei Su. I'm here at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre where the major meetings have happened at this very site. And right now is when the gala dinner is also happening. Now, Malaysia as this year's ASEAN chair would have known that by now, and as tradition goes, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and spouse are hosting the dinner tonight. And it's a more casual setting for leaders to talk over a meal. And I can imagine that these are the topics that would come up as well, as Melissa has mentioned. And before dinner, Melissa also mentioned that ASEAN member states signed a community vision. And this is the bloc's third long-term roadmap. But unlike the previous 10-year plans, this one spans over 20 years. And as far as I understand, it is a broad vision that charts out key areas that ASEAN member states can work together on. And let me offer you a little bit of Singapore's perspective on this, is that Singapore's key interests, such as on economic integration, digital, green future, as well as stepping up external partnerships are also part of this community vision.
All right, Rebecca, the issue is also, both of you have mentioned, the challenges facing ASEAN right now. So, for example, resolving internal issues within the region, such as Myanmar, and also looking at everyone is facing Singapore, a 10% baseline tariff from the Trump administration. Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, all facing even higher tariffs should those take place in just a few weeks' time. Were there any outcomes from talks on these between Singapore and Malaysia, these challenges that ASEAN as a region is facing?
Right, Wei Su, as you rightly mentioned, that all the ASEAN member states are actually facing different level of tariffs from the US. And really what Singapore has been emphasizing is there's a need to come up with coordinated response against its US tariffs. But analysts I've spoken to have also mentioned that this might be challenging given that they are facing different level of tariffs. What's important is that they can still come up with a coordinated response while still continuing their bilateral talks with the United States.
Oh, thanks for that. Rebecca Metteo there reporting live from... And Rebecca Metteo there, she was reporting live from Kuala Lumpur.